Good morning. My name is Catherine Loughnane, and I'm delighted to be bringing you the good news today on Thursday, July the 15th. Our gospel reading today comes from Mark chapter 2, verse 23 to chapter 3, verse 6. One Sabbath he was going through the grain fields, and as they made their way, his disciples began to pluck heads of grain. The Pharisees said to him, "Look, why are they doing what is not lawful on the Sabbath?" And he said to them, "Have you never read what David did when he and his companions were hungry and in need of food? He entered the house of God when Abiathar was high priest, and ate the bread of the presence, which it is not lawful for any but the priests to eat, and he gave some to his companions." Then he said to them, "The Sabbath was made for humankind, and not humankind for the Sabbath. So the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath." Again he entered the synagogue, and a man was there with a withered hand. They watched him to see whether he would cure him on the Sabbath, so that they might accuse him. And he said to the man who had the withered hand, "Come forward." Then he said to them, "Is it lawful to do good or to do harm on the Sabbath, to save life or to kill?" But they were silent. He looked around at them with anger. He was grieved at their hardness of heart, and said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." He stretched it out, and his hand was restored. The Pharisees went out and immediately conspired with the Herodians against him, how to destroy him. The Gospel of Mark is the earliest and shortest of the canonical Gospels. It was written around 65 to 73 CE, a period that spanned the Jewish war with Rome, the destruction of the Temple in Jerusalem, and the persecution of Christians in Rome, among them Peter and Paul. It is seen as a transition between the letters of Paul and the later synoptic Gospels of Matthew and Luke, both of which incorporate material from Mark. It is thought that he may have been a member of Paul's circle, and that he was with Peter in Rome, as he appears to have been writing for a group of Roman Christians. Many scholars consider Mark to be a literary masterpiece among the Gospels. He uses the historical present, reporting events as though they were occurring now rather than then, which enables us to imagine ourselves in the narrative. His stories are told in a lively and colorful fashion, which draws his readers into the action. They emphasize human frailty, suffering, and failure. In this case, the needs of hungry and disabled men. He witnesses the humanity of Jesus, who he refers to as Son of Man, and points out that Jesus expressed human emotions which range in this passion from righteous anger to deep compassion. Christ's divinity is manifested through his miraculous cure of the withered hand. In Mark, the Passion narrative constitutes the greatest percentage of the total gospel. The plot to kill Jesus is introduced early on, and most of the gospel can be seen as a prelude to Jesus' death on the cross, after which it ends abruptly. Jesus is portrayed as subversive, as trying to replace law with justice, retribution with compassion. This inevitably leads him into a series of controversies with the Pharisees over Sabbath laws. They had developed hundreds of petty, elaborate, and unjust rules for interpreting the fourth commandment, which were not based in the Hebrew scriptures. They were concerned only with outward appearance, not inward conviction. Jesus denounced them as hypocrites. They were hoping to entrap him by catching him breaking Sabbath laws. There are a number of issues to unpack here. One is the distinction between the law and justice, and another, the meaning and intent of the Sabbath. In the first story, the disciples pluck heads of grain from a field, which break the Pharisees' Sabbath laws with respect to harvesting and traveling. Jesus counters their criticism by recalling the story of how David commandeered the bread of the temple to feed his hungry soldiers, recorded in 1 Samuel chapter 21, verses 1 to 6. This story is succeeded by an account of a healing exercise performed in the synagogue on the Sabbath. While the Pharisees looked on in silence, Jesus asked the man to come forward and looked at the Pharisees angrily and asked whether it is lawful to do good or harm on the Sabbath, to save life or to kill. He then turned with compassion to the disabled man and healed him. The Pharisees saw this as the proof they needed and decided to conspire with their enemies, the representatives of Herod Antipas, ruler of Galilee, to get rid of him. Sadly, our modern world is full of Pharisees who create unjust laws. They are being crafted with malice aforethought in Republican states in the U.S. with the intention of disenfranchising non-white voters. Donald Trump justifies his diabolic activities by holding up the Bible to his alt-right followers. He is now preparing the path for a return to power. Systemic injustice was built into our common law, which was imported from Britain to North America and designed to protect the interests and assets of the upper echelons of a hierarchical and class-ridden society. Judgments that adhere to the letter rather than the spirit of the law are a major issue confronting our courts. Far too many judgments are based on observing the letter of the law, with devastating impacts on our Black and Indigenous brothers and sisters. Systemic racism and framing individuals with the intent to destroy them, known as entrapment, has been going on since the dawn of time. Rose Abella, the Jewish daughter of Holocaust survivors, recently retired from the Supreme Court of Canada. She has been lauded internationally for judgments that emphasize justice over legality. She is now off to teach at Harvard University Law School. Let's hope she can change the minds and hearts of the next generation of lawmakers. Although an inspired set of writings, the scriptures were written by humans and date back to the late Bronze Age, when cultural norms were very different. The fourth commandment says that the Sabbath is a day to rest and keep holy. It does not specify the day of the week. Sabbath simply means the seventh day. Jesus pointed out that the Sabbath was made for humankind and not humankind for the Sabbath. In our secular world, we have done away with identifying the Sabbath with a particular day of the week, and it is now possible to work and shop 7 days a week if we choose to do so. The danger, however, is that we may overlook the importance of taking time out during the course of the week to rest and contemplate and connect with our families. This is essential for our physical, mental, intellectual, and spiritual health. The world seemed to be spinning off its axis when COVID struck, and the pandemic has, in some respects, been a prolonged and enforced Sabbath. It has provided us with the time to rest and reflect on the most important things in our lives, for many of us long overdue. It has made us acutely aware of the importance of seeing each other socially and engaging in the life of the community. John and I are greatly looking forward to resuming our Sunday sung Eucharist, which was a landmark in our week before the pandemic. We miss the synergy and spiritual bond that comes from gathering in person and sharing the Eucharist, things which cannot be achieved virtually. And most of all, we miss seeing each and every one of you face to face. Thank you for being part of this wonderful community of faith. Have a good day.